Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. I would like to begin by asking you guys a question. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you have been involved in a sport sometime in your life or are still involved in one right now? Can I ask what sport?
I played soccer when I was like 5.
How about you?
Softball.
Softball. How about you?
Baseball.
You?
Football, basketball, baseball.
Basketball, cheerleading.
Well, all right. Now, I couldn't help but notice that none of you said any sports, mentioned any sports that is centered around running, such as cross country or track. And the reason I say this is because cross country is not as popular as other sports, and because it is not as popular, I'm here to shed some light on cross country. I will inform you of the general rules of cross country and the information on it, as well as the diet necessary to be competitive, and finally the training that cross country athletes undergo. Now, to start off, cross country races typically look like this. There's a lot of people involved in runners. Cross country races are typically 3.1 miles long for high schoolers and 5 miles long for college athletes, although this can vary depending on what state you're in, what college you're attending, or school you're attending, as well as the purpose of the race. Now, to get the distance just right, race officials or referees will often drive golf carts or other similar vehicles that measure distance along the course. And once the distance is just right, runners will line up along the starting line. Now, the sound of a gun, a starting gun, will signify the start of the race. If a runner is seen falling within the first 100 meters of the race, another gun will go off, telling all the runners to head back to the starting line so the race can be restarted. If all the runners are past the 100-meter mark, however, it does not matter if you fall down. The race officials will not restart the race. Throughout most courses, there will be things such as directional flags that will guide runners throughout the race. If you're seen stepping outside of the course, you will be automatically disqualified. Same goes for pushing and shoving others as well. And the thing about getting disqualified is you will not know until you are actually done with the race. And adding insult to injury, your whole team might get disqualified, depending on the reason. That's pretty much it on cross country. Actually, there's really not much to it except running and keeping your hands to yourself. To determine the team placement at the end of a race, race officials add up all the points that each individual gets, and the points that you get is determined by the place you get. So say I got 10th place, that means I got 10 points. Say I got 5th place, that means I got 5 points, and so on. So they add up all the points that each team member gets in each team. And so the lower the score for your team, the better off your team is. Next, I will discuss how diet is extremely important in cross country. But like in all other sports, what you eat matters. In cross country, however, it's perhaps the most important thing. If you don't watch what you eat, training will be futile and painful, making competing that much more difficult. You have to cut down fatty foods such as burgers, anything that contains a lot of sugar such as soda off your diet, and replace it with healthy alternatives. Some foods that runners are so fond of include peanut butter bagels, peanut butter sandwiches, lean beef, bananas, oranges, and water. Since races start so early in the morning, you do not eat a whole lot for breakfast, but you also don't want to race on an empty stomach. This is where the peanut butter bagels come in. They won't fill you up, and while they won't fill you up, they'll give you plenty of energy due to the high amounts of protein and carbohydrates they pack. Same goes with lean beef. And lean beef, what you eat the night before also is important. And it is recommended that you eat beef that has a lot of protein and iron. And iron helps. An iron deficiency in your body can help you feel fatigued, and you do not want to run while feeling fatigued. Now, oranges and banana, they help prevent muscle cramps. Oranges also prevent muscle soreness and alleviate muscle soreness due to the vitamin C that they pack. Now, it is recommended that you drink at least 1 gallon of water a day. You will often see runners walk around with a gallon of water in their hands in school, or most importantly in races, of course. That's pretty much it on diet. Of course, there's more better alternatives, but these are just some of the basics that runners are so fond of. Now, finally, I'll discuss the training that athletes undergo, cross-country athletes undergo. There are 2 types of training: long-distance training and short-distance training, often referred to as speed training. In long-distance training, the aim is to improve your stamina. Now, depending on your coach or the athletes themselves, the mileage run typically would vary from 10 to 14 miles a day for varsity athletes, whereas JV athletes will run no more than 8 miles a day and no less than 6 miles a day. For speed training, it's quite different. Everybody runs almost the same distance. typically no more than 4 miles a day. The aim for speed training is to improve just that, your speed, which is very important towards the very end of a race. Now there are various speed exercises that you can do to improve your speed, but I will briefly explain to you 2 of my personal favorites. The first one is called floaters. Now floaters, you pick a distance. Say I pick 200 meters. I sprint that distance as hard as I can. After I'm done sprinting, I lightly jog half that distance, and after I lightly jog it, I have to sprint those 200 meters again, and so forth. So you continue sprinting and jogging until you are satisfied, you or your coach is satisfied. Now the next exercise is called ladders, and ladders works a bit differently. Ladders, you pick a distance. So say I pick 200 meters again. I sprint 200 meters. After I sprint it, I take a 5 to 10 minute break. After you break, however, you add more distance on top of those 200 meters. So say I want to add 200 more meters. Now I have to sprint 400 meters as fast as I can. And you keep adding more and more distance after each break until you're finally satisfied. After you're done adding distance, however, you have to climb back down the ladder. So say I made it all the way to 1,000 meters. Now I have to do 1,000 meters again, then 800, then 600, until you're all the way back to where you started. These are just the basic cross-country workouts. Of course, there are better ones. These are my personal favorite because they are the hardest and they will leave you with a great deal of satisfaction. I have talked to you about the general information of cross-country, as well as the diet necessary, and also the training that cross-country athletes undergo. That concludes my presentation for tonight. Are there any questions? No, please come out.